Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and today is one of those rare days when Ferrari invites you to drive one of its finest sports cars, and the Ferrari Portofino and the GTC4 Lusso are the two cars that we have been invited to drive. So this car here, the baseline Ferrari, the most economical Ferrari you can buy in India, which by itself is still very expensive, is the first car that we drove today. And I'm going to let you know everything about this beautiful looking machine here. It's supposed to be the easiest car to drive in the Ferrari portfolio. It's got 4 seats, but the rear 2 seats are not as usable as some of the other Grand Tourers. But in any case, this is a beautiful looking car, and it's the successor to the Ferrari California. And over that car, this one is now 80 kgs lighter, 40 PS more power, and the chassis is all new. The E-diff has been introduced here. It's a fantastic looking, beautiful looking car, but as it goes with all the Ferrari cars, the beauty here is not just skin deep. There's a lot of thought that has gone behind this beautiful looking body, and if you look closely, you'll see a lot of details which are very interesting. And let me introduce you to all these beautiful details. And if you come here and see, this bumper here has these 2 little inlets outside the radiator grille, and these 2 vents feed air into the intercoolers to aid cooling. Apart from that, you have airflow happening from these inlets as well. The bumper extends quite a lot, and you'd think that this car would not be able to go over bumps very easily, but that's not the case. You have about 135 mm of ground clearance here, and this manages medium speed bumps just fine, but if you're going to go over a bigger hump, it's going to be a bit of a problem. A very beautiful detail here is this little inlet here, which is almost invisible, and it lets a lot of air channel through, and the air goes towards the wheels, and then the pressure that's created here because of the wheels and causes a lot of air drag is dispelled with this air force, and this not just reduces drag but also improves the insulation inside the cabin. Some of the air is released through this vent as well, and not just is this very functional, but it makes the car look sporty as well. And both these inlets and outlets work in tandem to make sure that this Ferrari has a lower drag coefficient. Apart from this, you have these 2 outlets here which allow the engine to radiate heat out away from the bonnet, and all of these things work very beautifully, not just to make this thing look beautiful, but also to ensure that heat is dissipated very well and the drag is kept to the minimum. Coming towards the side, you'll see some really beautiful concave and convex surfaces which are typical of a Ferrari to make it look very complexly beautiful. And if you look at some surfaces like this one here or this one here, it gives it a very exotic kind of a look. A very interesting detail that you'd probably want to have a look at is this little door handle here, and obviously this has a very sporty sloping roof line. You have these 18-inch wheels, and another important detail that you probably want to be knowing is that a lot of stuff that you see here might look like stock, but it's not. It's a Ferrari and they know how to make money. So even this badge here will cost you money. It's not standard. These calipers here cost you extra money. These wheels are not standard, and you name a few things which probably you think that are standard, but they're not. You'll have to pay for a lot of stuff, and I'm going to let you know all about that as we get inside. Now at the rear, these oval tail lamps have been moved wider than the California, and the car looks more squat. These haunches are more pronounced, and this exhaust obviously looks amazingly beautiful. You have a V8 bi-turbo sitting there, and it's essentially all the 2 pipes going into one and 4 exhaust pipes coming out of here. And the exhaust note here is something that I'm going to let you have a listen at. However, before that, you should know that while this car is idling, the sound note is a little different. When it's moving in comfort mode, the sound note is a little different, and when it's sport mode, the sound note is a little different. And it's all thanks to some flaps which open and close at various different RPMs, so that while you're ambling about in the city, you don't disturb the neighbors, but when you're out on the open highway and you rev it up, the whole world knows that a beautiful supercar has passed by. Like with all Ferrari things, this little diffuser that you see here is not just for the looks of it. It really works. It channels all the air towards the center, and it creates a downforce so that the car stays grounded. There's a lot of downforce that's created, and it enhances the grip. You have these outlets here as well, and overall, if you look at this car from the rear, the only thing that comes to your mind is beautiful, aggressive, and yet so elegant. You have a rear view camera here, and if you press this button here, you'll be greeted with some space to spare. This is not much, and the roof is up right now, so this is the maximum amount of space that you'll get. This amounts to about 290 liters of boot space, I think. And while this is not the most voluminous of the trunks that you would probably have seen, but if you really have a look here, it's not too bad either. And looking at the space, you probably have enough room here to put a couple of small bags. So if you're a couple going out for a short weekend holiday, it should be fine. But beyond that, you'd need a bigger car with a bigger trunk. So that's the story outside. The beautiful Portofino, the entry-level Ferrari, and the easiest to drive. However, there are a lot of wonders inside as well, and let's get inside the cabin of this beautiful car and let's see what all it has in store for us. So before we get inside, you have this beautiful leather with this stitching. Now, while this leather is standard, this stitching will cost you money. And if you look at this seat package where you have memory function as well, this seat packaging also is going to cost you a lot of money. So you can either go for an all manual setup for the seats, or you can go for this completely electric setup, and you can choose between the two, provided that you go for the options and you pay the extra money. These seats here are also technologically very advanced, and the frame inside is made of magnesium. They have been completely redesigned, and they are very well bolstered. They are not very heavy, and this car, as I mentioned before, is 80 kg lighter as opposed to the California. And there are a lot of enhancements that have been made. The chassis is all new. If you look at the A-pillar, the changes have been extensive. So they have used new technologies like sand casting to make sure that the weight is low. And 80 kgs, honestly speaking, is a lot of space to shave off any car. And while it's not visible, it's much more agile and a much better car to drive than the California. You have this beautiful Ferrari scruff plate here. And if you look at the space here, the space is not much. You can probably put half a liter bottle here, and it'll have to be lying down, so you cannot put a big water bottle here. But another little detail here that you'd probably do well to know about is this door pull here. And these door pulls are generally horizontal, but this is like a flap here. So if you have to open the door from inside, you have to pull it like this. You have a boot release button here, and once you get inside, you sit very low like you should in a sports car. And then you have this beautiful Ferrari steering wheel welcoming you. It's unlike any other steering wheel that you'll see anywhere, and it's loaded with a lot of buttons. So let's unravel this, and if you look closely, you'll see that the turn indicator buttons are here. You have the engine start stop button here, and using this, which they call manettino in Italian, and especially in the context of Ferrari, what you can do is you can choose various different modes. So you can choose comfort, you can choose a sport mode, or you can turn the electronic stability control off. This button right here is called the Schumacher button. So even when you're in sport mode, where you want the engine and the transmission to be in the most aggressive position, and yet you want the suspension to be soft, you use this button, so that while the steering is very stiff and the engine and the transmission are at the most agile, you still have the comfort of riding over a supple suspension. This carbon fiber that you see here is not free either, and you'll have to pay a lot of money for this. This light here essentially lights up when you have to shift gears, and it suggests that it's time to upshift. And this comes as a package, so the stock steering doesn't have it, but you can have this carbon fiber and this light installed. You have the cruise control buttons here, and you have some light related buttons out here. Now by pressing this little button here, you can bring up this screen here, which lets you adjust the seat in many ways possible. And you have the thermal management for the seat, as well as the lumbar and other adjustments. And you can choose whether you want to extend the thigh support, whether you want to adjust the bolstering for the thighs, for the back, for the lumbar, and all of that can be done electronically right here on this screen. And that's one amazing thing to have, although again, this is an option, this is not standard. And as I mentioned before, this is a Ferrari. A lot of things will cost you money, but this is one mind-blowing, stupendous thing that we have seen here, to be able to adjust the seat in so many different ways using the screen right here. Coming back to the dashboard here, you have carbon fiber all over the dashboard, and you have this exquisite leather on the dashboard. You have this tachometer as an analog unit. On the left, you have information about the infotainment system, while on the right, you have the speed as well as other information, and you also have a fuel gauge. Now you can get a ton of useful information on this digital display using this little knob here, and there's a lot of information about the vehicle available on the screen. This 10.3-inch screen is high resolution and very sensitive to touch, and it's a very nice, very high-tech kind of a screen you'll find anywhere on any car, and the resolution and the colors and the UI here is very easy to use. Apart from that, one very interesting thing about Ferraris is that the drive selector doesn't work like it does on a lot of other cars. So if you have to put the car in the drive mode, you have to press this right pedal shifter here, and if you have to put it back in neutral, you have to press both the pedals together. So that's a little different from having your normal drive selector in a lot of other cars. Apart from that, you have these 3 buttons here, and R is obviously for reverse, auto is for the auto mode where we are right now, and launch is when you want to get the maximum acceleration from a standstill. Apart from that, you have these 2 little buttons here which are meant to bring the roof down or take it up again. It can be done till a speed of 40 kilometers per hour, and it takes only 14 seconds to be deployed or to be taken back and stored away. An interesting bit about Ferraris is that their window buttons are here in the center, and this is one of the most expensive cars you'll find anywhere, and yet the buttons are here in the center, and this is the same for some of the most inexpensive cars as well. So either ways, you're going to be special, and that's one interesting bit that I wanted to show you. Apart from that, you have this little cup holder here, and this very nice space here where you can put your cell phone or wallet or whatever you want. And this little floating panel here separates the front driver from the passenger, and it really creates a very enveloping kind of an experience. This screen here is also tilted slightly towards the driver so that he can look at everything very clearly, and the passenger also gets this separate screen from where he can control the media, can look at the tachometer, and also look at various different stats of the car, including whether the F1 traction control or the electronic stability program are on or off. So it's quite a bunch of things which are available electronically as screens, as readouts, and it's quite a tech-laden package out here. If you look at the AC vents as well, they are pretty easy to use. You can move them in whatever direction you want, and to cut the flow, you just have to rotate this dial here. The driver's side visor doesn't have any vanity mirror, but it does have a toll ticket holder. The passenger side visor has a vanity mirror and illumination, and if you look here, you'll see 3 buttons. First one is to shut off the auto start stop, the second one is to unlock the doors, and the third one is to turn off the alarm system in case your car is getting towed away. So these are the 3 buttons here. Apart from that, you have these lights, and to be very honest, this feels very special. I've driven a lot of sports cars, and as far as sports cars go, this cabin is one of the most special you'll find anywhere. Apart from all of that, you'll find a few buttons here for the HVAC, and I think this is the only part of the whole car where you'll find the quality of the plastics not up to the mark. I really wish that these buttons were also metallic. It would really have helped lift up the whole quality experience to the next level. As far as the quality of the audio goes, you have this standard audio system out here, and you can have it upgraded. That would obviously cost you money, but as the standard package, you have 4 speakers, 4 tweeters, and 1 subwoofer right here, and the sound quality is pretty good. It's audiophile level, but if you want it to be better, you can obviously go for an even more expensive package. Now in the GTC4 Lusso, you have a robotic arm that brings the seat belt to you when you start the engine, but here you have this strap where you can just put it in, and it would be easier for you to grab it, or else it will just go behind, and sometimes it gets a little bit difficult for you to go all the way back and grab it. So make use of this, and it'll make things easier for you while you're getting started with your drive. Now, as I mentioned before, for the passenger also, you have this little screen here, and you can have a look at the tachometer, the gear you are in, the speed, the G-forces, and apart from that, you have a compass which shows you which direction you're going in. You can have a look at the performance, the tachometer, the gear, and everything else. You can also control the media as to what source is the audio is being played from, and from here you can have a look at what state all the electronics are at. So the traction control, the electronic stability control, the e-diff, everything is visible here as to at what levels all of these electronic aids are at, and you can also see the mode that has been selected right here. And you can turn the display off from here. You just have to press the screen once again to bring it on again. Now I'm pretty sure that you want to listen to the exhaust note of this beautiful car. It's a V8 bi-turbo here, and the power output is 600 PS. The torque is a crazy 760 Newton meters. And let's just very quickly rev it up a little bit and see how it sounds. You have this armrest here, flip it open and there is some space to spare. You can put a few wallets, maybe a cell phone. You have a 12 volt power socket here. You have a USB socket here. And you can put a USB socket in here with your phone to connect it to this screen, which by the way is Apple CarPlay compliant. But to make it Apple CarPlay compliant, you'll have to pay extra. And there is no Android Auto compatibility at all. Now, if you look at the back, there is hardly any space to spare. So obviously there is no space for an adult there. Even small children who are sub 10 in age would find it difficult sitting there. Only infants and very little children can probably sit there, and that's why you have these ISOFIX child mounts for seats there. And if you have toddlers or very little babies, you can put them back there and drive them to wherever you're going to. But putting fully grown or even teenagers or youngsters back there, forget about it. Now, we would have really wanted to drive this car on an open highway and preferably on a racetrack, but unfortunately we couldn't. The drive experience was limited in the bustle of Mumbai. But honestly speaking, sitting here inside this cabin behind the steering wheel is one of the most special experiences you'll ever get. It doesn't get more special or more sporty or most absorbing or overwhelming than this. This is a Ferrari. And there's a reason why Ferraris hold a special place in the world of sports cars. And honestly speaking, I've driven a lot of cars, but whenever you get behind the steering wheel of a Ferrari, it's a special experience. And they go the extra mile to make sure that the driver and the people who are sitting in the front get that totally different, totally exclusive experience. And with the steering wheel and the overall ambience, you do feel like you are sitting in a very, very, very special sports car, and you really have to be here to experience what I'm talking about. So that's that, guys. That's a Ferrari Portofino for you, the easiest, the most economical Ferrari to buy, and we experienced it firsthand on the streets of Mumbai. There cannot be a worse environment to try it in, and it really came out with flying colors, with all the scooters, speed bumps and auto rickshaws all around us. I really think that this can be used as an everyday car. It will set you back by about 3.6 crore rupees ex showroom. There would be taxes, and if you really so wish, you can spend another 1 crore rupees only on all the other accessories and customizations. But if you really wanted to buy a car which was a Ferrari and something that you could use on a day-to-day basis, this had to be the car that you'd go for. There would be another time when we would probably be driving this car on a racetrack, but today it was Mumbai and it was fun. I really hope that you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to Motoroids, and do not forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. This is Amit Changani signing off. Until next time, rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.